More than a year after Supreme Court struck down the tradition of instant talaq, the government today managed to push through a bill in Lok Sabha that says that anyone who says talaq, 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 thereby giving instant divorce, will face 3 years imprisonment. This clause of criminalization really didn't go down well with most other parties, going beyond the opposition. They all pointed out that divorce was a civil area. Why should the government get into it? But the government said it was a question of more than 400 women who had been left stranded by their husbands even after the Supreme Court had struck down Triple Talaq and banned it. And so if anyone dared to give Triple Talaq even after that, they would have to go to jail. Now, you would have heard the arguments for and against ever since this debate started. But on Reality Check, this is what we are going to do for the next half hour. We are going to bring up the various objections that people have and ask the Muslim women's representative. Remember the group which had actually gone around getting signatures from all Muslim women, for a lot of Muslim women, and they were the ones who moved the petition. So we're going to speak to them and ask them through all the objections, whether they are valid objections or not. Does the government have a justification for pushing through this bill when the opposition, the Congress and the AIADMK walked out of parliament before voting happened? Did they have a solid ground? So point by point, we'll dissect all that is seen to be problematic and give you a reality check. But first, here's how the law minister pitched the bill.
जनवरी 17 से 10 दिसंबर तक देश में 477 तीन तलाक के वाक़या हुई। ये जितना हम मालूम कर सके, और अभी बहुत कुछ हम मालूम नहीं कर सके हैं। अध्यक्ष जी, हमने क्यों हमने किया कि ऑर्डिनेंस लाया। आज देखिए अध्यक्ष जी, ये कल हैदराबाद में दिया गया है ट्रिपल तलाक, कल। उसके बाद उड़ीसा में भी तीन तलाक कल दिया गया है। और पत्नी ने रोटी काली बनाई तो तीन तलाक, पत्नी मोटी है तो तीन तलाक। एक वकील साहब ने अपनी पत्नी को तीन तलाक दिया कि तुम वकालत नहीं करोगी, वो भी वकील थी। एक प्रोफेसर साहब ने व्हाट्सएप से दिया तीन तलाक। और सबसे तो रोचक है अध्यक्ष महोदया कि एक मुस्लिम महिला मोदी जी के इंसाफ की रैली में गई तीन तलाक के ऊपर, तो लौट के आई तो पति ने उसको तीन तलाक दे दिया। मतलब पत्नी जाती है इस हद तक, डाउरी की मांग किया, नहीं हुआ तो तीन तलाक।
So this law minister there speaking about how it's apolitical, but is it so? Well, to speak about that, joining us right now, we have Zakia Soman, who is of the Muslim Mahila Andolan. They were the group that went around getting all the signatures. They played a key role. They were the ones who fought it in Supreme Court and got it struck down. What do they think of what happened in Parliament today? Also joining us from the Congress party, we have Sharmishta Mukherjee. We also hope to be joined by someone from the BJP. Remember, very, very dramatic, and perhaps what's most dramatic about this entire thing is the fact that while the BJP stuck to its guns, it didn't really have many people on its side. Even the classic fence-sitters, whether it is the AIADMK or the BJD, who sometimes on issue-based, depending on the issue, have gone and supported the government. But on this issue, they were unequivocal that they didn't support criminalization at all. So what does the government make of all that? And do they even dream of getting it through Rajya Sabha? Who will they have on their side? But first of all, I have a list of the objections that were raised. Thank you so much to my guests for joining us. First, Ms. Soman, if I can ask you, what did you make of the arguments that were presented on both sides today? Which one was more convincing for you?
See, I would say, unfortunately, in our country, politics takes precedence over, the issues concerning women. And that was very clear today. But in our opinion, it is the obligation of all elected representatives and all political parties. It's a constitutional obligation to enable laws which would bring about gender justice. And in this regard, Muslim women have been particularly discriminated against because Hindu women, Christian women, they all enjoy the protection of laws passed by various, family laws passed by the parliament. But in our case, we are still, being governed by the 1937 Sharia Application Act. So it is, it is high time that we are, given parity in legal matters, in marriage and family matters. So it is a good day today. At least there was a broad consensus in the Lok Sabha that we need a law. As to the nuances of the law, there were, divergent views. And, there was a suggestion about, just 15 days should be given to the, joint parliamentary committee and all. So, yeah, so at least I think it's a good day. It's a historic day where all the political parties are on board, at least about the need for a law.
And do you support criminalization? Just before I move to Sharmishta Mukherjee.
Yeah. See, punishment in itself is not the objective. It's not going to serve any purpose, but deterrence is required in law. Because otherwise, even after the Supreme Court judgment nullifying instant triple talaq, there have been instances, 45 instances of triple talaq which have come to us. So deterrence is necessary. Deterrence, takes away the arbitrariness. Deterrence gives bargaining power in the hands of the woman. It sort of, she can leverage it to bring the husband, to a level of discussion and dialogue.
Okay.
So in that sense, yes, deterrence is necessary, and there is deterrence, there is punishment in the dowry law, in the domestic violence law, in the bigamy law.
Okay,
so it's
so
not
this
as
is
though we are talking about punishment for the first time in women affirmative laws.
Okay, that's very interesting. That's very interesting. So we have one of the key people who were behind moving this bill, the Muslim Mahila Andolan. They are saying they prefer and they support this criminalization. Sushmita Dev, this is, I so beg your pardon, Sharmishta Mukherjee, what would you say to that? The opposition, and we heard so many of your colleagues speak in Parliament today, a lot of the opposition leaders also speak, but we have Zakia Soman here, who is one of the prime activists who pushed for this. What would you say to what she's saying, that they need deterrence?
Sunitra, first let me say that we reiterate the Congress view that we were the first political party to welcome through a press conference when the Supreme Court judgment passed, announcing triple talaq as unconstitutional, hence null and void. Now the whole issue, of this bill, the whole problem as we see, is three. Firstly, the criminalization of a civil offense. In no other religion, for example, a Hindu man, a Hindu husband, for abandoning the wife, can he be declared a criminal? Can he be sent to 3 years in jail? Can a person not belonging to Muslim religion, can he say that I divorce my wife, I divorce my wife, I divorce my wife? Can he be criminalized? Can he be treated as a criminal? And the strangest part is that it is already null and void. Once it's null and void, so just by pronouncing something, which is null and void, then you are criminalizing, you are making criminal of a person. What purpose it is going to serve? That is our first concern. Second is that, you send the husband for 3 years in jail.
Yes.
So who is going to give subsistence to the wife? So that is, in this whole bill, the subsistence is very vague. The subsistence allowance is very vague. So we want it to be more defined. We want it to be more concrete, that how to quantify it, what is the mechanism, which is going to implement it, and how to ensure that the person, the victim is also properly compensated, properly looked after. And thirdly, the way this bill is being bulldozed in the Parliament, absolutely overlooking all procedure, all the political parties, all the opposition parties, they are sending that, nobody is opposing the bill per se. Everybody is saying send it to the Joint Select Committees. Just within a proper time frame, within 15 days, 20 days, because an act of Parliament, each clause has to be scrutinized.
Okay,
This
Ms.
law
Mukherjee.
has to be scrutinized. It just can't be passed in a hurried manner.
Sure. Ms. Mukherjee, you make those and you have very well articulated all the three objections, which are basically the nub of the argument against it by all the opposition parties. But here's what's interesting for our viewers. So you have 2 points of view there. Zakia Soman, one of the activists who have really wanted this, they fought for it in Supreme Court, and she's saying, no, I think you need this kind of criminalization. And there you have Sharmishta Mukherjee over there saying, articulating what the opposition and all of them seem united on this is saying. Now take a look at what Asaduddin Owaisi, the Hyderabad MP, the objection he brought up, and it's quite a compelling one.
सेक्सुअल माइनॉरिटीज को 377 में चॉइस दे दिया गया, रिलीजियस माइनॉरिटीज को क्यों नहीं मिलेगा? हिंदुस्तान के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में चॉइस जूरिस्प्रूडेंस है, मुझे नहीं मिलेगा। आपका कानून रिलीजन के खिलाफ है, आप प्लुरैलिटी को खत्म करना चाहते हैं, इसके साफ जाहिर हो गया।
Zakia Soman, respond to that. That seems like an interesting legal argument, that you've just decriminalized so many things and this is a civil issue. Why should only Muslim men be taken to court and put in jail? Put in jail for what is basically, as many people pointed out during the debate today, a contract between man and wife. They're the only two parties. Why should the state put away a man because he decides to split?
So then Mr. Owaisi should have supported our demand for a codified Muslim family law, where we are saying that the procedure for divorce should be laid down as per the Talaq-e-Ehsan procedure, which is laid down by the Quran, which involves dialogue, discussion, mediation, arbitration over a period of 90 days. Originally we were making this demand for a codified Muslim family law, to which Mr. Owaisi and the Personal Law Board or none of the religious leadership paid any heed. Now, with our hard work, we have brought the issue to this level. There has been a movement of Muslim women. Thousands of Muslim women have come out and spoken about what is happening to them, and this legislation is being now talked about. That is when some people are remembering pluralism. So exactly, from day one we were driving at pluralism. We were saying that gender justice is a fundamental principle of the Quran. In fact, the Quranic jurisprudence 1400 years ago was, quite modern. Concepts like arbitration, like mediation, like involvement of both parties, like contract, like nikah nama between the husband and the wife. These are all very modern concepts.
Okay.
Which all have been, pushed under the carpet, I'm sorry to say, by the conservative patriarchy, which is dominating the Indian, Muslim.
His view,
not really
Zakia
dominating
Soman,
society.
his view, one second, sorry. His view may be conservative patriarchy. Sure, I give you that. However, I'm just saying, just by the point, just by the argument of it, that we've just seen this year, we've celebrated decriminalization of 377, we've seen decriminalization of adultery, and Supriya Sule made the point in court today that you should have, if you want to criminalize something, then you have to criminalize marital rape. Why are you criminalizing divorce?
See, the problem is that, Mr. Owaisi and other such people did not take any initiative all these years. The Muslim women, through their own, toil and suffering, built up this movement. And I can understand that, those belonging to the ruling party may want to take an advantage. That's the nature of politics in our country. But the thing is that why didn't Mr. Owaisi and people like him in the first place, the first time we voiced the demand for a codified Muslim family law, that was way back in 2012.
Okay.
It was covered by, the print media. And that time, none of these people supported us. And the women have been suffering alone. And we have taken, it has taken us a lot of hard work, lot of labor, lot of toil to build this movement. And now, all these wise men, quote unquote men, are coming out with their own views. But what is their legitimacy now? What is their legitimacy? I'm asking
That's
this question.
interesting.
Yeah.
That they are just saying this now. You're saying they're paying lip service just to get legitimacy. When you were talking about codifying, they didn't speak at all at that time. Okay, can we just play out what Smriti Irani, she was one of the ministers who was fielded by the government to speak today. She spoke about one of the objections that has been raised by the opposition, that you have no process, that they won't get law and they won't get bail. This is what she said.
वो लोग जो इस बात का प्रश्न चिन्ह लगाते हैं, what happened to due process of law? Let them read that a magistrate will ensure due process and reasonable process of law.
Sharmisha Mukherjee, you heard the minister. You all asked for bail provisions. The government has given an amendment which gives bail provisions. What's the problem now?
The voice is not very clear. So could you please repeat what did the minister say?
She said that you have a magistrate now. The amendment says very clearly that the magistrate is there to will hear the party and decide on bail. So is there still a problem? It's not that it's non-bailable.
No, the whole issue is, first to begin with, why to criminalize?
Okay.
Of course, in the family laws,
Okay, we are just going to fix Sharmisha Mukherjee's audio, but I have Deshratna Nigam, lawyer, and who takes a contrarian position from the Congress. He joins us on the panel, and before we go to him, can we just play out what Sushmita Dev of the Congress said, and we'll get him to react on that. Let's just play that out.
Today, what is it you're giving the Muslim woman in the name of empowerment? You are giving her nothing but a criminal case. Nothing but a criminal case. Will the husband reconcile? Let the Honorable Law Minister answer that. आपने subsistence word का इस्तेमाल किया है इस act में. What is the definition of subsistence? Today there is no definition of subsistence. Today, what you are doing in the name of women empowerment is you are giving the husband a right to subvert much greater rights which are under the Domestic Violence Act of 2005.
So Sushmita Dev seems to be that she seems to be articulating for a lot of the opposition parties there that you're actually penalizing, in the name of empowerment of women, you are penalizing Muslim men. That's something even many people who have otherwise been on your side, the BJD has often come out in the BJP side. These are not traditional opposition leaders, but they seem to agree. They are all united today. So there must be something wrong.
See, there's nothing wrong. This is about, trying to appeal a particular section of voters. And I'm sure Sharmisha in her heart would be very happy inside that such a law has been passed, but posturing and optics is something else. And it was a clear mandate of the Supreme Court judgment when they says the Parliament must seriously consider, because they wanted to go beyond the unconstitutionality. If they never wanted, they would have stopped there. We have already declared.
I have a very good bite of Mr. Ramachandran on that, but please continue.
So they went beyond that, so that you should consider something as a deterrence. And secondly, if you look at it, the second aspect of it was that the point was that I just missed it.
Sure.
And the second aspect was the clear instructions in the Supreme Court that parties should desist from political games.
Right.
That's also written there.
Okay.
So, and say,
Yeah.
the why this is very important is instant triple talaq leads to halala. And halala leads to polygamy. All these three things are related. This is where women are getting empowered. One will deter the other, the second will deter the third. So it is complete chain which is going to be deterred. It is not only one instant triple talaq. So it cannot be looked into isolation.
Okay, so since you mentioned the Supreme Court judgment, there's another thing I want to ask you on. If you can just roll that objection that was raised in Parliament, I think it's RSP MP who said it. Let's just hear what he said.
The minority judges, the two judges, has endorsed the view that is, yes, it is the Parliament has to make a legislation. But unfortunately, madam, you may kindly see, it is not the majority judgment. As the Honorable Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad ji has just stated, it is as per the direction of the Supreme Court, this bill is being brought before the House and the ordinance is being promulgated. But madam, may kindly see the Supreme Court, the majority Supreme Court majority Supreme Court judges has not made a direction to the Parliament to make a law on it. But it is the minority judgment actually made. And the government is coming with a bill on the basis of the observations made by the minority judgment. So also my submission is this is lacking benefits.
Well, the bit that we didn't also, the entire bit, he then goes on to say, in the Sabrimala, there was the minority judgment, which is in
I've heard that.
You heard that thing.
I've heard that.
What would you say to that? The government seems to be cherry picking.
No,
in one Supreme Court judgment, it goes with the majority. In the other Supreme Court judgment, wants to go with the minority.
It is not about majority and minority. It is about two situations here. We are not talking about uniform religious code. This is about the uniformity of the divorce.
But they're both about empowering women. In one case, it's about empowering Hindu women to also go to Sabrimala. In this case, it's empowering Muslim women against Triple Talaq.
Let us be very clear on it, what we are talking about divorce. And there, it was the women who are in the forefront who were opposing it. Entire women who are the devotees, a particular institution.
But here, women are the ones who are...
Who went. The women didn't go. In that case, please remember, that is a distinction. And that's a religious ritual. And this is the divorce. These are two separate things. We cannot mix the two.
You can't mix the two.
You can't mix the two, because this is about divorce in the field of civil behavior, which has been criminalized as a deterrence. You know.
No, but it's divorce, but it's a matter of faith. It's a Muslim penal, it's a Muslim law.
India is a secular country. Please remember
but
that.
We do have laws.
So it is getting rationalized. All the Muslim laws which are spread out here and there, it is getting rationalized.
So Sharmishta Mukherjee, this is what they are arguing. This is what the government is also arguing, that these are two different things. But that MP's argument, would you say Sabrimala and a different view, that there seems to be double standards over there?
It absolutely, I am absolutely amazed by the most warped argument of the gentleman, and this also shows the double face of BJP. On one hand, they talk about women empowerment in the Triple Talaq bill, and on the other hand, the same government, the same political party, they are disagreeing with a Supreme Court judgment which allowed the woman to go and pray to Sabrimala. So why this double standard? And secondly, there is nobody opposing the act of demolishing Triple Talaq. There is no question of that Triple Talaq has to go. That practice has to go. Every political party, they agree to that. But the only issue is that why to criminalize? Why are you criminalize as civil
Very
offense?
Simple answer, Sharmishta.
What are you doing about
the let him respond. Ms. Mukherjee, let him respond.
Of the woman.
Okay.
When you send the husband to the jail, who is going to feed the woman?
And just to add to that,
among Hindus also, men are sent to jail. Please remember that.
Ms. Mukherjee, let him respond.
What we want,
okay.
That sustenance part definitely should be more clearly defined in the act.
Okay, which is what I wanted to bring up for our viewers as well. If you can bring up that objection number 1.
It has to go.
That is the one, that this one, you don't say, first of all, you don't actually say are clear, which is what everyone kept bringing up as well. Who is going to pay the subsistence?
The husband or his family.
And how much?
And that law is very settled. It depends
apparently it's not.
No, the law is already settled by Supreme Court in various other judgments that it is a portion.
But suppose the husband is the only earning member and only his older parents are there, then what happens? Will the state pay?
Then what happens? The court can grant bail. That is where the bailable provision comes in. Magistrate will look into it, will not send him behind the bars, and will say you remain out because you are the one.
But that takes time. What happens to the family? And
that doesn't take time. Bail doesn't. The first thing you do is apply for bail. Please remember, the moment you are arrested, the first thing you do is apply for bail, and it comes for hearing the next day. So there is no delay out there. Please understand. Let me tell as a lawyer to your viewers, immediately the person is arrested, the bail is moved.
Okay. Well,
and subsistence allowance, as we have in service law also, it is apportioned as to the number of children you have.
Okay.
And it is accordingly, and if somebody has a low income, the allowance will be low. And somebody has high, then it will be high.
Okay, so, we've gone through some of these objections. Yeah. There are so many of them. I wanted to give the last word to Zakia Soman as we end the show. Zakia Soman, you still remain quite a big advocate and supporter of it. But out of all the objections that were brought up by various opposition leaders today, is there one? I know that you agree that there should be jail term, but is there one that the opposition leaders brought up as a change which you think is a good idea, which will make this bill a better one?
Yeah, ideally, it would have been nice if there was a greater consensus, a greater collaboration, kind of a constructive working together by all political parties. It would have been really good, because this is, I must most humbly submit, this is not about BJP, this is not about Congress, this is not about any political party. This is about justice for women of India.
Yeah.
And
This is
I
also
really,
not about men versus women.
In this spirit, if, they had collaborated, then it would have been really...
Well, that's
there is
perhaps
scope for that.
Yeah, that becomes a key question to end on, because after all, without consensus, it's very unclear how this will be passed in Rajya Sabha. I want to thank all my guests, Sharmishta Mukherjee, Deshratan Nigam, and of course Zakia Soman.
Can I just?
We're totally out of time. Yeah, okay, go ahead. 5 seconds. We're totally out of time.
Say that there should be, all attempts should be made
Yeah.
for reconciliation. The moment you send the husband to the jail, how
Yeah.
can there be a reconciliation?
That is available.
That's
Well,
contradictory.
Okay, so
That's
that remains one of the issues that perhaps we need much more clarity on. If you're sending your husband to jail, how will you have reconciliation? Thanks to all my guests. That's it on the show. Goodbye.